Hello, everybody. And guess what? Welcome to day two. We're going to be in session three of what? Our 3-day financial series talking about what? Money, money, money. Yes, your money. We're talking about seeing it, getting it, tracking it, and growing it. So we are so excited to get started on today. And as you are in this space, know that you can participate. And so please speak to us as you come in, and definitely know that in the process of these workshops of the workshop, these sessions are to be interactive, so you can ask questions. And so your questions, make sure to put your questions in, and throughout at the end of the presentation you will have your questions answered. And so what are we talking about today? Today is all about tracking that money, right? And we're going to talk about seeing and understanding your money. And Margaret Henningsen will be talking to us. She is the community advisor of Forward Community Investment. And so we are excited to have Margaret come on, and she is going to give us a plethora. Yes, the word of the day is plethora of information. And so, Margaret, how are you doing?
I am great today. Thank you, Ramon. I'm very excited about doing this. This is a
Yes.
new technology venture for me.
Yes, so we're going to have some fun. And so I'm going to get your presentation up. And Margaret, you have fun and take it away.
Okay, thank you. So yes, as Ramona mentioned, we're going to be talking about tracking your money, seeing and understanding it, which is probably the most important thing you need to do if you're going to be an entrepreneur or a small business person. No matter what, that money is the most important thing. Next slide. So here's the thought process. Your mission, should you decide to accept it. For those of you who are, of a certain age, you know where that comes from. But the point we want to make here is that seeing and understanding your money starts with your understanding of why are you even in business or wanting to start your own business. If you don't have some thoughts about how you're going to see and understand your money. So you have to start out with that mission. You should be thinking about how you are going to sum up your business, the main objectives. Why does your business exist? What will your business public image be? And what do you want for your customers? Those are very key things that should be in your mission statement. And it doesn't have to be long. I'm giving you an example. Starbucks, their mission statement: to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Mission: short, sweet, simple. But when people read your business's mission statement, it's like your elevator speech. They should have a very clear idea of what it is you're doing with your business and why you decided to become an entrepreneur, or you're already an entrepreneur. If you have an existing business and you don't have a mission statement, how are people going to know what the plan or thought process is for your business? Next slide. So the best way to see and understand your money is with a financial plan in writing that is driven by your mission. It should be fluid, easy to change. As much as you would like for things to remain the way they were when you jumped out of bed one day and said, I'm going to start my own business, is that life happens and you have to make changes. So you have to make sure when you're thinking about this written plan and your financial plan, what is it that you're attempting to do? So you have to be able to adapt it quickly. It should be understandable. If you can't understand it and you have to ask somebody questions about it, how are your customers going to understand it? And you have to address all of the key components of your business. And what I found over my, 40 plus, 50 plus years of working in this area, There are two categories that generally rise to the top. Revenue, which includes all sources of funds, and expenses. And this is all expenses, no matter how small. This is very crucial. So when that plan is done, you want to see a profit, right? So whatever reason you have for becoming an entrepreneur or thinking about wanting to become an entrepreneur, at the end of the day, you need to see a profit, or otherwise you won't be in business, and you need to understand how that profit happened. Next. So let's take a look at something that many of you are probably not familiar with. You know what this means, but you haven't seen it in these 4 words. No margin, no mission. No matter what your reason was for starting your business or wanting to start a business, your mission, the reason you want to be an entrepreneur, can't happen without the margin, which is the profit. So no margin, no mission. Without a clear mission and plan, which would be your budget, it's easy to outspend your revenues. That leads to losses, debt, the potential closure of your business. Not having a clear mission and a clear financial plan or a budget is the #1 reason small businesses fail. Let's let that sink in for a minute. If you don't know what's happening with your money, if you're not seeing your money and understanding your money, no margin, no mission. So every financial plan has to touch on the top 8 business components that affect your revenue and expenses. We're going to talk about those in a minute. But I want everybody to understand that there are hundreds of things that you should put in your financial plan, but the top 8 components that will determine whether or not your business is successful is what we're going to focus on today. Next slide. Okay, so first of all, you want to do a business snapshot. Your business snapshot will help you see and understand your money. So here they are. Opportunity. Is there one? Your family's and friends have been telling you for years, you make the best fried shrimp in the world. And oh man, you should go into business because you make the best fried shrimp in the world. But is there an opportunity for you to step into that market and be successful? So the first thing you want to look at is there an opportunity that should I open up the shrimp shack or the shrimp restaurant or continue to cater from my home? Is there an opportunity for me to see and understand how I'm going to make money doing this? Opportunity. What is the value to your customers? Many business people, when they're developing their mission, no margin, no mission, don't give a lot of thought to the value to customers, because on the other side of you being the business owner is your customer who's looking at whatever your business does and trying to decide, am I getting the best bang for my buck? The best bang for my buck. So when you're doing your business snapshot, you have to think about the value of whatever it is you're doing to your customers so that you can see how they see you. This is a good time to call up that really honest family member or best friend and say, I think this is the value of what I'm doing to my customers. Do you agree? And you want to ask somebody who is going to honestly say to you, what were you thinking of when you came up with the value to customers? Or yes, this is a go. Target market. Is there one? You know, one thing COVID has taught us is that a lot of the things we have thought about all of these many years related to entrepreneurship, small businesses, no margin, no mission, that target markets have changed significantly because the way we live in the whole entire world has changed. And so this is where that fluidity comes in, because maybe if you had a shop, a store, a restaurant, a location, your target market could be anybody, as long as whatever you were selling had a value to your customers. What we've discovered as a result of COVID is that target markets have changed significantly because the way people eat, sleep, work, think, travel, everything we do as humans has been affected by this. It could be good that your target market changes because maybe it broadens. You were able to pivot right away and say, I'm going to make my services mobile. Or, as been the sad case as COVID has continued to linger, is that people have seen their target market shrink. So you have to constantly evaluate, is there a target market for what I'm doing? Because the target market that supports you, that spends money with you, is going to help you reach your margin so you can reach your mission. Competition. How much competition is out there for what you're trying to do? And as a small business, are you strong enough, liquid enough to be able to overcome your competition? And I can give you an example, a number of examples, but again, referring back to COVID, and what all that means is that there was competition when this first started. People in the restaurant industry had to rethink what they were doing. And many of them who only had service where you could come in and sit down were unfortunately and unhappily for many of them forced to rise to the occasion and do whatever their competition was doing, which meant curbside pickup, delivery service by the actual restaurant, or, DoorDash, or some of these other places that, at almost 75 years of age, I'm just getting familiar with. So yes, what is your competition doing and how much competition is out there? And if you're going to jump into the competition pool, do you have the financial resources that you can see and understand your money that will help you compete? Sales plan. Do you have one? My experience over the years has been, and I'm sure some of you will be nodding your head when I say this, is that you don't have a sales plan. You don't feel like you need one. Maybe when you got started, your business took off right away, but everybody needs a sales plan. And the most important part of your sales plan is what happens when you are trying to see and understand your money and you see that your revenue is declining. What does your sales plan say you need to do in order to not have that happen? Got to have a sales plan. Revenue streams, are they real? You are not going to become a millionaire overnight. So don't put that in your revenue streams. Okay, you can put it in a little box on the side, but you have to make sure that you have to see and understand your money, that the revenue streams you predicted are going in the direction you want them to go in. But the only way that's going to happen is when you start, they have to be real. Your costs, are they real? You have to be realistic about what it's going to cost. A couple of weeks ago, one thing I really love is bacon. And a couple of weeks ago, I went to the grocery store to buy this same brand of bacon I've been buying for a gazillion years that cost $4.99, and it was $11. If you are a small business owner, you are already feeling the accelerating costs. This is where you need to be adaptable and flexible, because you're going to have to go back in and figure out those costs. The last of the big 8, which I also find many people don't spend a lot of time on, is employees, your team, the key roles. Who will that be? How many will it be? And how much would that cost? And I get a newspaper called the Milwaukee Business Journal. And some of you are probably familiar with business journals wherever you're from. And they have a section in there that shows lawsuits that have been filed against small businesses. The number one liens, lawsuits, judgments that are filed against small businesses have to do with the employee category of unemployment compensation, because that's something as an employer you have to pay. And if you don't pay it, the state, feds, someone is going to come after you. So make sure that this is in your top 8 when you are trying to see and understand your money, how much this costs. Next slide. Okay, so you're going to start with the cost. For each of the 8 categories, you need to see and understand your money going out. Next slide. What is necessary revenue? And I often find in conversations I have with small business people that necessary revenue is different things to different people. But for each of the 8 categories, in order for you to see and understand your money coming in, you have to realize your margin, i.e. your profit. Otherwise, no margin, no mission. So when you're looking at the revenue, your sales, what you sell, plus your expenses, or minus your expenses rather, equals your profit margin. So you have to figure out, what do I have to earn? What do I have to make? What do I have to bring in order to make my margin work so that I can do the mission? Next slide. Okay, now this is very important. Sources of money. And I know that you talked about this for those of you who might have been around yesterday and later today. You're going to continue to talk about sources of money. But whether you're a startup or an existing business, sources of money is at the top of the list. And I find oftentimes that small business people don't really think of sources of money as a category. It's more of, well, what am I going to do tomorrow to continue to make a profit? So 3 key things here: your financial plan or budget, your mission statement, and your business plan should all provide information that helps not only you see and understand your money, but others as well. So this is a very crucial piece because, you know, if you don't have any money, you can't get that business off the ground. So a well thought out and realistic financial plan or budget, this is a very critical document when you are looking for sources of funds. Yourself, family, and friends. Yourself, family, and friends. I just read a report maybe 5 or 6 months ago, and especially again with some sources of funds not being available, is yourself, family, and friends is usually the number 1 category that is a source of funds for a small business to start. An investor, an angel investor, an investor who wants to become a partner, an investor who invests in small businesses philanthropically, a lender. And the SBA loan, Small Business Administration, is the most often used by small businesses, although over the years they have really, you know, got what I describe as stuck on stupid sometimes. And it's the most often used because it's widely offered by a lot of lenders. Community Development Financial Institutions, a CDFI. Where I work at FCI, we're a CDFI. We lend to nonprofits. And then the most important thing is that that whole well thought out and realistic plan is an absolute necessity when you are filing your tax returns. And I have an intimate relationship with the IRS because I had some issues 10 years ago, and it took me 2 years of doing my own research and fighting with the IRS to get them to admit that they took $28,000 more than they should have from me. Okay, because I had my documentation. Documentation is key. So when you're doing all of these things, you're looking to sources of funds. You may have other sources of funds that you're thinking about, but these 5 listed here, or 4 sources of funds, and then 5 could be a sources of fund when you're filing your tax returns, because if you can show you operated at a loss, then you can get a return, or you can pay less or refund, or you can pay less taxes. And that's your goal. Next slide. Okay, so there are resources to make all of this easier. And I have to say that when I first got involved in this, almost everything, we didn't have all this technology we have now. I consider myself the Google queen. I love to Google things, and you can find out anything, good, bad, or ugly, about whatever you want to find out about when you Google it. But there are so many things in this age of technology that as an entrepreneur, you have no idea. The younger you are, you have no idea how much easier it is because there's so many resources available online. So let's recap. If you have a good plan, if you track your money regularly and keep good records, the operative 2 words here are good records. You will have a much better way of seeing and understanding your money. And let me give you an example. In my lending experience, I cannot tell you how many small business people, entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs, came into my bank. I want to start my own business, or I need to borrow money to support my business. And I would tell them what I needed, and they would come into my office with a cardboard box full of unorganized paperwork. No. No, no, no. You need to keep good records. You need to make sure that everything's in order, because if you look in that box and don't see and understand your money and how you got to the point where if you're an existing business, you need to borrow money, or how you got to the point that you weren't quite sure how much money you needed to start your business, it's because you need good records. So here's where the resources come in. You can find all types of templates these days by going online. You can even type in your business type. So the benefits of a business budget planning resources are that, number 1, it helps you see if you are financially healthy. If you don't have a business budget, it's impossible for you to know the financial health of your company, your business. Even if you're a sole proprietor and you're just doing something part-time because your mission, your goal, your vision was, I need to bring in $700 more a month. But you can't figure out how you're doing that. You won't have any idea if you've met or exceeded your goal. You might see that you have $700 in your account, but how did you get there? Because the key thing that small businesses, which are doing much better now, is understanding how they met the goal for their profit, where years ago it was very difficult to do that with all of this technology. Another thing it helps to do is strategic planning. So your business budget allows you to develop a strategic plan that helps you to see and understand your money. If you want to obtain debt financing, which we just talked about, do not under any circumstances go into a bank or other financial institution without your financial plan, that when you look at it, you see and understand how the revenue came in and how the revenue went out to cover expenses and how you arrived at a profit. Because the only thing, well, not the only thing, but the main thing when you're going in for financing, they want to know, can you pay us back? You can use these plans to attract investors. Last year in 2021, $118 billion was put into small businesses by investors. And that $118 billion was a result of small businesses getting smart, using technology, having a plan, seeing and understanding their money so that they could attract investors who would put in money to keep the business going. Tax preparation, we just talked about that. You cannot stay in business if you do not file your taxes. And I mean every year on time. Finally, decision making. In order to make decisions about any facet of your business, you have to see and understand your money. And if you don't see and understand your money, then you're not going to be successful. The small businesses are successful. You can Google whatever industry, whatever business you're in, whatever you're doing. You can Google what you're doing, and you will find all kinds of resources popping up that will show you how businesses like yours were successful. What I'm hoping is that a lot of you in the listening audience today will be the example of those businesses that come up if they're successful. So let's just do like a really quick recap, and then I'll open it up for questions. Right, Ramona? We'll open up for questions. Okay. So your mission will help you to see and understand your money. And it will help you to stay successful if you're looking for financing, if you're going to family and friends for help, if you're talking to an investor, and it will help keep you out of trouble when you are filing your taxes. Okay? Let's remember that your plan should be fluid. It should be easy to understand, and it should address all the components of your business. And let me give you a quick example of that. I worked with a woman a couple of years ago. She wanted to try to start a business like Uber. And when I was talking to her, we got to the part about employees and how many and how much would it cost. She said, well, it's going to be me. And I wanted so bad to just grab her by her shoulders and start shaking her. So this is what I said to her. I said, if you get 3 calls at a time, how are you going to take care of all 3 of those customers? And you could hear crickets. The next time she came back to me, she had her plan written out. I gave her a template, and she had a plan written out, and she had tentatively recruited students from Marquette University, which is a university here, who had cars and wanted to make money. And she had figured out from going online and Googling the other services like that, how they paid their people, which wasn't much, and how they worked their plan out. You have got to address all the components of your business. You have to do that, okay? And if you keep in the front of your mind, no margin, no mission, and you have to keep referring back to your mission to figure out what it is that you're doing. This all ties into helping you understand what resources you want to look for when you're trying to figure out that financial health, the strategic planning, the debt financing, attracting investors, and tax preparation, and then decision making. Those things all tie into what you're doing. And so refer back to the 8 things that should be addressed in your business snapshot: opportunity, value to customers, target market, competition, sales plan, revenue streams, cost, and employees. So now we need to go to questions. And one thing I do want to say is thank you for attending, because nothing is more important than seeing and understanding your money. And this is you being smart and proactive, which you didn't get to see very long. This is what I like about Ramona and Kenyatta. They're, I could talk all day long about this, but they're keeping me in line. Okay. Do you have questions?
We do have questions for you, Margaret, and we thank you again for being on with us. We thoroughly enjoyed the information that you gave. You had talked about value to customers in the snapshot. Can you give us a couple examples of what some possible value could look like to customers?
Okay. The number one value to customers, how customers think, and all of you think this way too when you're trying to determine value, is, am I getting the best bang for my buck? Am I paying more than the market dictates I should pay? So when you're looking at this, you have to figure out what the value is to the customer by talking to people. That's why I said, find a friend that you know will go, what were you thinking of? Or say, yes, this is a good idea. Because you have to be honest with yourself. Most entrepreneurs, when they jump out of bed one morning and go, this is great. The day after my 50th birthday, when I decided to start Legacy Bank, it was the passion side of me that said, I'm going to start the bank. But the pragmatic side of me said, if I do this, what's the value to my customers? Mm-hmm. And the value to your customer is, what is the benefit they get if they come to you and say, I want to do business with you? That's what value to customers mean. And what ties into value to customers is the cost. How much work do they have to do to get to you? A lot of sole proprietors or small businesses only have a few employees. That's one of the big things that happen in value to customers. If you have to travel all the way across town to use this service, you might find somebody between where the customer is and where you are, where they feel like they're getting a better value.
That's so true. Also, you had talked about a sales plan, right? So what are some things we should have on a sales plan?
In the sales plan, that's really your marketing plan. Mm-hmm. How are you going to make sure that people know that Auntie Margaret's rap music service that would be right, inside joke is out there. If you don't have a sales plan or a marketing plan that says, this is how I'm going to let customers know I'm out here. Your sales plan covers all of those components. In your sales plan, you should have a little blurb about how you're going to make money. In your sales plan, you should have a blurb about your target market. Who am I going to go after who's likely to have money to support my business? Your sales plan should say what would happen if COVID arrives in the United States and it sticks around for 5 years. That's a new thing we've had to add to sales plan. Your sales plan should clearly identify, this is a really important one, who does what. Yeah, I'm the boss. This is Auntie Margaret's rap shop and I'm the boss, but who does the actual work? And what do I have to do if 2 of my employees don't show up on a payday sales day and I'm in there by myself trying to take care of all these customers? Mm-hmm. Sales plan. It drives your sales. What do I need to do to make sure that I have the kind of sales I want? Do I need to get a TV ad, a radio program? Do I need to belong to Color Bold? Think about all the things you need to do. Do I need a mentor? Am I looking at am I being smart, getting on the computer and Googling stuff and finding out what's happening? Those are the key things for a sales plan. And there's actually templates out there. Google small business sales plan. You can tell I'm the Google queen, can't you? Mm-hmm. Find something out there that will help you to think smarter, work smarter, spend less money, and be more profitable.
Go ahead.
Well, Margaret, I know you're about to take the rap and hip hop industry by storm. And so I want to make sure that I ask this question before you take off in that. You talking about the business snapshot and really the sales plan and almost like a business plan. I've talked to and, deal with a lot of businesses, like you said, just took off and was successful because, that shrimp shack took off, or, this business just took off, and they really don't have this paperwork together. And so, the budgeting, the plans. And so what would be your professional encouragement or thought to tell those who may not even have anything written down or no type of plan? What is the level of importance for that? I may be doing some things now, but now
67, this is the most recent statistics, and it's probably gone up since COVID. Here's what I would say. 67% of small businesses fail in their first 2 years. I don't think I have to say anything else. You don't have all of your stuff together, you're going to fail. I used to be very hard on my customers because I wanted them to be successful. If you don't have things where you can go back and look at your plan and figure out what happened, there are some extenuating circumstances. COVID is a perfect example that, who would have even envisioned this happening? But generally speaking, that plan, and remember I said several times, it has to be fluid. You have to be able to look at it and adapt it. And yes, there are small businesses that are wildly successful. They haven't put pen to paper at all. But when they hit that first bump, that's why 67% of small businesses, and I think that percent is higher, fail in their first 2 years. Go to the Small Business Administration website. There's a gazillion resources there, but they talk about how to avoid having your business fail. Mm-hmm. It's why SBA tightened up their criteria and their guidelines. They used to be very sort of loosey-goosey. And they had this one program, 7A, that was specifically for the more risky small businesses. They have tightened all of that up. When the PPP loans came out, they were practically throwing money at people. All you had to do was sign something or, submit this application. But the amount of fraud that occurred, it's almost impossible for small businesses to get any kind of loan from the SBA because people abused it. They misused it. It was something like $14 billion, and probably 60% of that went to big small businesses, banks. I think one of the basketball teams, the Los Angeles Lakers or somebody, got a multi-million-dollar PPP loan. They eventually gave the money back because their sales plan, their marketing plan didn't say what to happen when your fans start saying you're a skunk because you took this money away from small businesses. Sales plan, it had to be adaptable, and their sales plan said, we better give this money back.
Okay.
So I know that's very sobering, these statistics I'm giving you. But if you go into this knowing that many small businesses fail in the first 2 years because they don't have a plan, you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that you have brought up in your presentation about unemployment compensation, because I think that most small business people or people in general think about a budget is really just our income that's coming in, subtracting like our our expenses, like our rent and the power and like the stuff that comes every day. But there are some things that people don't account for. Is there any other thing that you suggest people saving for, or as a small business owner?
Yes. When you're doing that financial plan, that budget, you're trying to see and understand how revenue's coming in and money's going out. There's this whole section called benefits. And a lot of sole proprietors are usually the ones who get in trouble for this, because they just, the money's going out and the money's coming in. It's just them. And that's all. Maybe they're paying a few people over here and a few over there. That's how they get in trouble. So Social Security, that gets collected from employees and has to get sent. It's almost done electronically now. Unemployment. Do you pay health benefits? Are you paying into the health plan? Because if you don't pay into it, guess what the health provider is going to do? They are going to cancel your plan, and your employees are going to go to the emergency room with their kids and be told they don't have any insurance. So you have to make sure, and this is where the technology is so great, because this is where you will find these templates that have everything, like down to the most minuscule thing that you would have to think about putting on there. But the big ones are under the budget category or the benefits category. And then the big one under that is unemployment. So, and I frequently, when I used to work with customers, if someone called me and said they were doing something, I would go look in the business journal to see if they had paid their unemployment compensation. The other one is your taxes. Most small businesses, and this is why they fail, they don't do this. So when you are an entrepreneur, particularly if you are a sole proprietor, have a very small shop, you are supposed to calculate how much you owe the IRS, and you're supposed to send that money to them quarterly. And they'll send you the forms. They'll help you figure it out. If you don't do it, they'll penalize you and you'll get charged an extra fee. But the scarier part is them coming after you because you're not paying your taxes. And I can tell you from my own experience, and it's horrifying right now, with all the things that are going on with these stimulus programs, with COVID, with a lot of people not working and stuff, the IRS, I just had a conversation with them last week. They are 16 weeks behind on processing 2019 tax returns. They have barely touched 2020. Unless you had a refund, they tried to process those first. When I filed my tax return, this is very important for you to understand this. When I filed my tax return for 2020, I had a check attached to the tax return for $21,000. That's what I owed. Just last week, they sent me a letter and said, I have a credit with them for $21,000, but I didn't file my tax return and I'm about to go into the penalty and interest mode. They can take a lien and all that. So when I finally got somebody on the phone, I said, the check was attached to my return. You could hear crickets. I said, get me a supervisor. So what I'm saying to you is all of this is very important, okay? But this whole reporting and money thing and filing your taxes, you have to do this. And if you don't ever, there's no stupid question when you were trying to be a successful business person. Okay, next question. Did I answer the question?
Yes, thank you so much, Margaret. That's all good information. And definitely people have to understand that even though it can be scary dealing with IRS, they will work with you if you just open your mouth and talk to them. Right. So there are payment plans, even if you are back due this and that. So don't wait, or don't keep running and hiding, because it will catch up with you.
I'm a perfect example. I'm a perfect example. I can't tell you how many payment plans I've had over the years. And the other thing I can tell you is every now and then you'll get a crazy, dumb, or mean IRS rep. But the most of them are just like us. They're just doing their job. They're the messenger. And I have found that most of them will be really happy to help you, as Kenyatta said, if you just start explaining to them what happened. They'll work with you. I'm telling you, you know how you can get frozen syndrome? The IRS sends you a letter and say, we're about to take your house. And then you sit around going, what am I going to do about this? Then when you finally call, you can barely talk. So that happened to me. I mean, I waited until they were about ready to take my house. And then I called them sniffling, you know, crying, and please don't take my house. That was the easiest thing I ever did. In 30 minutes, I had a payment plan set up and I had to send them money right away. So what I'm saying is, and especially people of color, we have a tendency to not learn what we need to learn when we are trying to start or run our business. Okay,
this is so true. This is so true. And they definitely, if they owe you, they will take forever paying you back.
Yes.
Just stick with it. Don't give up, because we have a problem of giving up, saying it takes too long to snap, but just stick with it. But they will be on you. They'll take forever paying you back. But anyway, thank you so much, Margaret, for being with us this afternoon, giving all your wisdom. We hope that everyone who is watching now live with us and then watching the replay has gained a lot of information from this content. This on the screen is her email address, mayasmom79@gmail.com. If you have any questions or need any help with anything, feel free to reach out to her, as well as us at Colorbold Business Association. The replay will be up on our social media pages and platform. And we definitely thank you for tuning in with us.
And if you're not a member of Colorbold, join, support them financially. It costs money for these two beautiful sisters to be sitting up here telling you what to do. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
And also, before everyone leaves off our social media platforms, we have entered in a survey, a 4-question survey on our page. Please fill that out if you would like to get more content from us. Let us know how we can help and better serve you. Please fill out that survey and join us today at 1 p.m. for our next section on tracking money. You definitely do not want to miss it. Thank you, everybody, for joining with us. And again, thank you, Margaret, for being with us.
Thank you. Bye.